like, oh, yeah, but, yeah, it just gets me all that.
Howdy. I have to stop laughing for a second. Welcome back to Dion Talk. I'm actually going to leave that in the video.
Why not?
When I record these videos, it's when I'm doing the Three Amigos videos for Michael Zuber's channel. And sometimes the stuff that happens between those videos would get all of us sued. So we don't leave that in the videos. What I'd like to do today, if this is your first time to my channel, the goal of my content is to help the average individual learn that you can reach financial freedom and make work optional in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. And it's kind of rough sometimes to think about what those first few years are going to be like. Some of the things that we have to do, because in the FIRE community, financial independence, retire early, a lot of people think it means being frugal, and I am not frugal. But for those first few years, there were some things that we had to do. I have Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time and Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord, who have both been investing for over 20 years. So they've had the experience of what those first 5 years looked like. And then we're going to talk about what the last 5 years from today looked like. So let's start with Mike. Tell me some of the things that you had to put up with or deal with in the first 5 years of getting into real estate.
Yeah, so for the first 5 years of my real estate investing journey, it was really about sacrificing and getting my money right at home. I came into real estate investing with a little bit of capital to get the first 2 rentals. But after that, it all had to come from savings. All right, so we purposely started to sacrifice. We were spending 100% of our income, and we got down to 50% by year 3 or 4. And it was that savings with a little bit of cash flow and then a cash out refi that allowed us to really go forward. But for me, the first 5 years were really all about sacrifice. Because again, we tried to make more money. My wife had really an hourly job, so she would try to get a bigger bonus. I was a commission-based salesperson, so I was doing everything extra calls, weekend this, weekend that, trying to make more commission so that we could keep going. So I was trying to maximize revenue. I did not yet know about a side hustle, but I would routinely work 100 hours when I add in plane travel, because I would always work during the day and travel at night. I was on an airplane. I counted one time 48 out of 52 Sundays. Because again, if you want to be in Europe, you got to travel Sunday, right? And so I really only had Saturday. I wouldn't do anything on Saturday. It'd be like my day to usually take a nap because my freaking body clock was all broken. And it's why I actually say today every day is Saturday, because that was my one day that really meant something to me while I was doing this. So it was all about sacrifice and doing the work. I did not know it was going to work out. There's this book that I've now written because of this. So I don't know if you guys have probably seen this book, right? Real Estate Millionaire from Gary Keller. There's about 20 pages at the end where he's talking about other real estate investors. This was the inspiration for 15 Conversations with Millionaires, right? That book there, because I wore these pages out because I wanted to know it was going to work. And I had no idea it would. And it was Gary Keller's book. Hopefully now this generation's 15 Conversations will do it. But I didn't know. It was a hope and a prayer. It was sacrifice. It was, God, honey, I hope this pays off, because we didn't know. We had no guarantee it was going to work.
So the doubt is something that I don't think a lot of us have talked about as investors.
Yeah,
I mean, we usually just go, here's what worked for us. This is what you need to do. I think that's a really good point to go, here's what worked for us. But for several years, we were living on hopium, learning how to do this, figuring out what was working and what didn't. For instance, stocks, starting with 7,000, turning it into 190 something thousand and losing down to 40, and then saying,
that hurt.
Didn't work. Right. Exactly. So now, Matt, those first few years, the 5 years, what did that look like?
Well, my shoulders are so broad because I carried so many buckets of suck. It was horrible. It was not fun at all. It meant no vacations. It meant that if I wanted to go on vacation, I had to make sure at my W-2 job that I was the top rep in my job to get to go to a President's Club trip. That's how I guaranteed I would travel, and for free. Everything was a hack. It had to be, because it was, just one thing after another. And it was, when you first buy that property, you're taking every single maintenance request personally. Just like, what do you mean? What do you mean it broke? What do you mean the back of the toilet broke? How's the back of I've been alive for 23 years. How does the back of a toilet break? What do you mean you broke the back of a toilet? And I'm sitting there going, how the heck am I going to pay for a broken back of a toilet? Like, what is going on over there? I mean, honestly. And it was just like every little thing like that. You know, it's like, you know, no heat. And you're like, can you make it till morning? Can you make it till morning so I don't have to call the after hours service?
Yeah, so it's not an emergency service.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, dude, it's $179 for them to show up. Yeah. You know, and so, yeah, it was a lot of that. There was nothing easy about it. And that's why I want to help people now, because you're going to need encouragement in that first deal, that second deal, that third deal. You're going to need encouragement. The market now is very different from a normal market. And so there is a lot more difficulty in a market when you can't refi out every 18 months and get another check.
Yeah. This
market is very, very different. But the market that I started in, it was nothing like this. It was, you had to really understand your analysis. You had to really, you know, I would actually more, you know, just as thoroughly now as I did then, but like a boiler dying on me, that then would have cleaned me out. Like there was no additional emergency fund like that. It was really, really hard. And so I think that people might make it look easy now on YouTube, that are just like, oh yeah, see how easy this is? No, it's not easy. It is not easy. It's hard. It's hard. It's a lot of work. It's time sacrifice. It's money sacrifice. It's sanity sacrifice. It is pit of your stomach. It is sometimes heart palpitations. These are all things that I have felt in my first 5 years of being a real estate investor. There were times when you were just like, please just don't break, you know, and it was all of those things, you know, and like literally there was what we call the mafia in Manchester, New Hampshire. And it's the 37 building inspectors this one city has. How do you pay for 37 building inspectors, everybody?
Fines.
Tons of fines. Tons. And that whole experience for me, it was like $3,000. And I was like, what am I supposed to, like, what am I going to do?
Where's that come from?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, wish in one hand and you know what in the other, and let's see how it turns out. Yeah. So yeah, the first 5 years, they were awful. They were hard. They were dreadful. They were self-sacrifice. Absolutely. I mean, I was making six figures in a job. I was driving what I called a $1,500 special. I was making six figures driving a $1,500 special. I was driving a 1992 Pontiac Bonneville with a hiccup in the transmission. That's what I was driving. So you want to know what the first 5 years of real estate feels like? That's what it feels like.
So frustration and doubt. Yeah. And one of the problems I had in the beginning was patience. It takes so long for things to start happening. My situation was pretty much the same in the beginning. I was driving what we would call beaters. When I went from one police department to another. And when I showed up in my beater, they called it rolling PC. That's the car you would pull over if you were on duty, because that person doesn't have insurance. They haven't paid their registration. Stuff probably doesn't work. And I had three of those because one of them had to run well enough to get me to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So those first few years, going to the movies was a once in a while treat for the kids. Not Disneyland, not Disney World, not Hawaii, the movies. Going to a restaurant meant the kids got to eat. I would have an appetizer and a cup of water. One of the richest times I've ever felt in my life is when I went to a restaurant and I thought, I'm going to have a soda. My meal. Like, I'm going to pay for that. But the first 5 years, I wasn't as certain, as exactly like you guys, as I am now. If I started right now, I know that in 4 years, I would have exactly done these steps. But I didn't then. So the people that are starting, they don't now. I had a house. I was living in a house. I moved into an apartment because my debt to income ratio was bad. And we lived in an apartment, which a lot of people think, oh, my family wants this house. I talked to my kids and they were like, there's kids in those apartments. If we move over there, think of all the people we could play with. They have a pool. Like, it was a downgrade to what most adults think, but my kids were happy. Lived there for 2 years to get the rental income on my tax returns so that I can actually buy a property with my bad debt to income ratio. it was another 2 years to buy that next investment property. So I was 4 years in. Technically, if you look back at the big steps, I took 2 steps. I bought a duplex to live in, and I bought a duplex as an investment. In 4 years, 2 things. But there was learn how to find a lease, learn how to screen a tenant, learn how to contact handyman, figure out how lending works, how does getting rental income on your tax returns. There's all the steps along the way. So that was my first few years when I wasn't making a lot of money. And now that we've probably depressed everybody, I want to explain why this is worth it. The last 5 years, not the last 5 years like your life is over now, but I mean from today, counting backwards 5 years. Mm-hmm. Mike, can you tell us a few things you've done that you probably thought you were never going to be able to do, or even had the option to do? What does that look like?
Well, first and foremost, about 4 years ago to the day, I walked in to get my new patch territory in commission and walked out 30 minutes later going, I quit. That was empowering, right? Because we knew we had the monthly nut covered. So again, retiring at the drop of a hat was interesting. I bought my dream car, which I had since I was 18 or 19 years old when I was selling car stereos. A dentist rolled in one of these. So I bought that, paid for my daughter needed a place to live. We didn't like what she selected, so we bought a place for her to live in. I had a dream. So I get all kinds of stuff that I never thought was possible when I was 12 or 13. One of the things that I only thought rich people could do was buy season tickets to their favorite sports teams. My dad grew up, he loved the 49ers, so I loved them as well. He played football, I didn't. But for me, it was always basketball was the thing, right? It's better athletes, in my opinion. So I never thought I could afford tickets to, the Warriors. So about 3 years ago now, I think, we bought season tickets and wrote a massive check because you not only had to pay for the tickets, but you had to pay for the rights to get the tickets, a PSA or whatever they call it. We've taken some vacations, not as much as we would like, but when we do, they're nice. We take our daughter and her boyfriend, all expenses paid. It's nice. And oh, by the way, I'm speaking to you from an office that cost me $2,500 a month because I want to give back and help a freaking million people. So, that's, these are things you can choose to do when you don't have to worry about, keeping the lights on. So it's worth it. But those first 5 years suck.
That is a pretty big change.
Yeah, I would say so.
You'd have to imagine that a lot of people don't even think that retirement's going to be that good after working 40 years for the same company and getting a good pension and their Social Security and their retirement accounts to just be able to do pretty much whatever you want. How about you, Matt? Last 5 years, what's that look like?
I buy more socks. I'm excited about that. No joke. So the funniest thing for me was for years, I had to do laundry every week because I only had 7 pairs of socks. So I had to do laundry because I had 7 pairs of socks.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that was one of the big things. Honestly, going from, this was probably longer ago than that, but dollar menu to the actual value meal, that was exciting. In the last 5 years, probably after we spent all the money and my wife went through school to get a degree in nursing, she now wasn't nursing anymore.
She's now a real estate professional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's a real estate professional. It's kind of funny for us. It's like, Dion, you probably know because of the house hack thing, right? And so for us, there are still so many things broken about me because of how hard and how long I struggled. And even when I look at the numbers now, they're just a number on a spreadsheet to me. I don't really care. It's like, I use it to teach my kid lessons, my kids lessons. I use it to be grateful for what I have.
Well, hold on. You're being a little too modest here for my liking. So the first place that you moved in with your wife, your house hacking, how big was that place?
So the very first place?
Yeah.
So the very first place that we moved into that we weren't house hacking was like
no house hacking. We're talking first 5 years.
Oh yeah, first 5 years. Oh yeah, it was not nice. It was, so to give everyone an idea, Ashley walked it with the broker. She walked out crying, saying that I was going to call him with an offer. And it was because it had been a crack house.
Literally.
Literally. And everything was stained. Like, it was gross. Now we did a 203K loan, like me, Kevin, we did a 203K streamline to spend $35,000 to make it livable. And so it was livable. I bought almost everything off of Craigslist.
How big was it?
It was, so that was probably like 1,100 square feet.
Okay. 1,100 square feet. Any kids at the time? Did any kids live there? Okay.
No.
So now you're in a house that's a little bigger than 1,100.
Yeah. Yeah. My house is retarded now. Yeah.
Right. So let's not pretend like we're still living in an 1,100 square foot house.
So that's I was just gonna say. So that's like the only, like, really, I'm so like on everything else. Like, I still drive. I drive a 2001 crew cab truck. My backup car, Dion, I still do the backup car thing. I have a 2004 Pontiac Grand Prix that cost me $2,100. Like, it's a little bit like, my wife's starting to get a little bit embarrassed with me. She's like, listen, we can afford it. I was like, yeah, it just gets me all that. So yeah, so Dion, I just gave you a bunch of stuff that you can now edit and make.
That's going right at the beginning. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I mean, that's, so the funny thing is like, it took me a lot. Like, I was 40 before I bought my first single family home that we were going to live in by ourselves.
No, how many years did it take you before you had your own single family home with your wife?
16.
Damn, that's great.
16. Yeah, 16. And I bought a house with a mold problem, and we gutted it.
Of course you did.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm broken. I get it. But we bought a house with a mold problem and got them to take $100,000 off the price because it was full of black mold. And I was like, I'll live there after I fix it. That's fine. And so that's what we did. And now the house that we're in now is ridiculous. But it took so many years, because I get it. We get in this mindset, especially with having hacked, right, Dion? Like, you get in that mindset where you get addicted to how cheap it is to live. And so, yeah, it's funny because I'll be far more generous with other people than I will be with me. And, I get thrilled about a new sweatshirt. I'm broken.
So then there's this orange car that you're adding.
It's true. But a house is buying it for me.
So tell us a little bit about the orange car.
Just like Mike, season tickets was the dream as a kid, growing up older. For me, the dream, I had the picture of the white Countach and the red Diablo Lamborghinis on my wall. I could afford the posters at that point. And so I had those. And the goal always was, I saw my friends were really successful buying these cars and having massive payments. I'm just like, I can't do it. And so I just finally, one of these days, I was like, you know what? I just need to find a house that makes me enough money where I can have that one house, make enough money where I can cover the payment on the Lamborghini. And so I did it. So I bought the house. We closed on the Lamborghini deal. And now I'm just Lamborghini shopping, and quite frankly, just watching CPI continue to go up and watching the stock market get crushed because somebody's going to have to liquidate their Lambo.
Sucks for them, but that's kind of beautiful.
I'm doing my part in the economy and buying that Lamborghini when someone has a distressed sale.
So first 5 years, no vacations. Have you taken any in the last 5 years?
Yes. Las Vegas. Honestly, there is so much to do in Las Vegas. We'll buy a place in Las Vegas one of these days. So I think the first thing for me is looking at second homes. That was just not going to be a thing for me. I was just like, yeah, second home. I'll have a first home. Thank you. Because I didn't have a first home in forever. I mean, I moved 9 times in 13 years for my house hacking strategy. And I've moved 19 times or 20 times total. I'm only 44. That's a lot of moving.
Yeah, it's a lot of boxes.
You don't use boxes when you move that often. You use Rubbermaid totes.
Trash bag totes.
No, Rubbermaid totes. Yeah, we upgraded from the trash bags. They only last one move.
So I've only house hacked twice. So I literally just call 2 guys in a truck. I go to work. I come home. Everything's at the new place.
There you go.
So
that's when I knew I made it. The last time we paid movers.
There you go.
That's kind of what I thought too. Because I have gone and moved friends so many times.
Yes.
But I was looking at a house hack and I was like, this is going to cost me like $300 or $400 with a tip.
Yeah.
Why am I even thinking about doing it? Right. And I thought that was a big change from I can't get a soda with my meal to I'm not picking my own stuff up.
Yeah, that sounds heavy.
I was doing the math on how many pizzas and packets of beer it was going to take, and literally doing a cost benefit ratio. If I bring this much pizza and beer, I can probably get this many people. It will take this long. If I hire it out, I'm broken. I get it.
Yeah, and mine was the opposite. I thought if I help people move, then people will help me move.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
That is a one-way street.
It is.
So that doesn't work. I don't do that anymore. So if you want to move and you want help, I know 2 guys in a truck, cost you about $350. You should tip them.
Give them a number. There you go.
So there were little changes like getting a soda with the meal. I'm still house hacking. I've used the binder strategy this year. I'm being paid $2,500 a month to live in this 1,200 square feet, 2-bedroom with my own gym workout area with a shed, private drive.
It's awesome.
Like I have the option of moving into a boat and having this unit pay for the mortgage, the upkeep, the maintenance, everything on that. If it's 36 feet, is that still a boat? Still, it's not a ship or anything. I don't know anything about it, but I just want to live in the marina and I can do that. And this place will pay for it. Those are thoughts I would have never had before.
That's awesome.
The car thing, I'm on my 3rd nice car. I used to have 3 cars so that one would run well enough to get me to work. And I grew up, our generation grew up watching Back to the Future. Probably seen it a few times. Yeah. And there were several different timelines in that movie. And there was one timeline where everything worked out right. He came home and his parents were married. He still existed, goes out to the garage and there is a shiny Toyota Tundra sitting in the garage.
Yeah.
So my first nice car.
Yeah.
Toyota Tundra. To me, mentally, that meant my timelines are working out right. And then I realized that the Tundra around that time period had a really tiny gas tank and I was fueling up like twice a week. Yeah. So I went out and did the practical thing and bought a Corvette.
Oh, nice.
Because with their engine, with the 8-cylinder that when you're not driving it the way I pretty much did all the time, it would drop to 4-cylinder and get 38 miles to the gallon. So I was like, oh yeah, that's actually practical. I never drove it to where that would work, but that was the idea.
It started in 4 cylinders.
Right. And then I go from the Corvette because I live in the Northwest and realize that, everything 5 feet and lower is water wash from the other cars. So you can't see. So now I'm in a jacked up F-250 pickup with actually the compensator written across the tailgate with every extra from massaging seats, heated seats, everything. Right. But I don't do car payments. I have a duplex that I call the car duplex. When I bought it, I thought I'm going to set aside $700 a month. And as that grows, I'm going to buy the next vehicle, the next vehicle, the next vehicle. And I wanted the Elon Musk, the Tesla truck, original design. The new design looks like a Subaru. So no thanks. So I don't know what the next vehicle is going to be, but that duplex is not cash flowing $700 a month more. Now it's like $1,400 a month. That's $1,350. Setting aside all the cash flow from that property every month for the next vehicle. Options that just didn't seem possible in those first 5 years. So if you're watching this, hopefully you laughed a couple of times because we all did. None of that was fake. If somebody has questions and wants to reach out to figure out how to make their life the way our last 5 years were, Mike, how can they get a hold of you?
One rental at a time, whether it's website, books, YouTube, all that. And I go live at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning.
And I like how you finally are naturally pluralizing.
Yeah, books.
The books. That's how you find me. Right.
It took 4 months.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just because somebody is still working on the Audible version, which my voice is back now. So I'm about 10% into it. So I'll be sending files here to you pretty soon. Cool. And Matt, if people have questions and want to reach out, how can they find you?
Lumberjack Landlord, especially Mr. and Mrs. Lumberjack Landlord. Thursday nights, couples, it's thruples, all people. Just come on in, ask your questions. We're not there to embarrass anybody. We want to truly answer people's questions so they can kind of get over the hump and really become part of the team that they're investing with. Because I think that I know in our relationship, mine and my wife's, it's helped drive us together most of the time.
So I really like your guys' couple live stream. And one day the cash flow from my rentals is going to be big enough for me to actually afford to go on a date. And I'll have a second person to come and watch the couple's Lumberjack live stream.
But not today.
Thanks a lot, guys. This was great. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry. sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It just gets me all that.
Yeah.
No problem.